Today, we have none other than the one and only Kenny S. Ramirez.
When I was in college and law school, we moved from houses to houses because we kept on losing the house that we were at. We lost our home. We were literally homeless. Moved into a hotel, the six of us, but I remember coming home to the hotel and I had to get gas, and I was at the gas station across from where the hotel is at. And I remember looking up across at the hotel that's on the other side of the street and just starting to laugh. And the thought that crossed my mind was, well, it could only go up from here. All you can do right now is prepare. Have faith that it's going to work out. Something is going to happen. But in the meantime, prepare. And when preparation meets opportunity, then you'll be in the best position to take it. How then can I help someone else? Perhaps avoid that. Really, as a human is serving and helping other people. I had no choice, and that helped me. I just needed to look at the best out of every situation. And that's what I want for other people as well to see. Hey, whatever circumstance you're in right now, this can actually be good. Find the good in it, and you'll grow from it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm very excited to get into today's episode. But before we get into it, I want to share with you that this episode is brought to you by the Law Office of Kenny S. Ramirez. Now, life can change in an instant. Whether it's a car accident that wasn't your fault, a slip and fall in a grocery store, or even the tragic loss of a loved one. And the aftermath can feel overwhelming. You might be dealing with trying to get medical treatment, medical bills, missing work, calls from the insurance company, or just the stress of not knowing what to do next. That's where we come in. At the Law Office of Kenny S. Ramirez, you have a team, a family of accident attorneys who are here to give you back your time and peace of mind. We're here to help you get the maximum compensation you deserve so you can focus on healing and getting back to what matters most to you: your life, your family, your future. If you or someone you know needs some guidance and support after an accident, click the link in the description below for a free case evaluation. You'll speak with our team and we'll help you get your life back on track. And we're committed to being by your side every single step of the way. No matter life's challenges, you don't have to face it alone. We're here for you. Now let's get back into the episode. All right. So, we got an exciting episode today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. I'm excited to have a man with us today, who I have the privilege of calling my brother, one of my closest friends, my boss. He's a true leader, a powerful advocate, a man of faith, character, and integrity, a friend, and an inspiration to so many people. And that man is Kenny Ramirez. Kenny's journey has a very humbling beginning. He was born in Guatemala to two young parents who in their early 20s made the courageous decision to leave everything behind in their home country and make the journey to the United States for a better life, and to give themselves and their 2-year-old son, Kenny, the opportunity to pursue the American dream. Despite growing up undocumented, Kenny did not let that reality define him or stop him from achieving his goals and dreams. Kenny's ability to turn every disadvantage into an advantage has been something of a superpower. Kenny has broken barriers and is the first in his family to pursue higher education. He has made the rise from law clerk to associate attorney to managing attorney to now owning his own law firm, and which I have the privilege as well of working alongside him. Kenny is a man who seeks to serve and help others. Today, as I mentioned, we have none other than the one and only Kenny S. Ramirez. Kenny, welcome to The Art of Purpose.
Thank you, Sharon. It's fun being on this side, I guess, and watching you start this off, and I'm excited to talk.
Yeah. No, as if you've seen the other episodes, everyone who's watching or listening, you know, Kenny is usually the one sitting in this seat, and we've had so many amazing, wonderful guests sitting on the other side. Absolutely. But we felt, especially I did, I felt that it was important, and I wanted to get your story out there as well, because I think it's very inspiring. It's inspiring to me, and maybe it's a little biased, but I truly think your story, your journey throughout life is something that can motivate, can inspire, can instill a lot of hope in so many people. And so I think it's it's important to get this story out there, your story out there. So
thank you. Huh?
Before we dive right into it, we always do this with our guests.
Right.
A little bit of a show and tell. We ask our guests to bring something of significance, a little trinket, something that's important to them. So I asked the same thing of you. Would you be able to share what it is that you brought with us today?
So two things. One, we might be able to show this in the video later, but what this is,
hold it up,
right here, it's two photographs. The one on your left is going to be a photograph of my dad and myself when I was about 4 years old, maybe 5. And the one on your right is a photo of my mother, along with myself and my brother, at around the same age. And I don't know, I love these ones. The one on your left, in particular, the one with me and my dad, it's a memory that's just so vivid. It is. So when we first, I'm sure we'll touch on this a little bit later, but when we first came to the United States when I was 2 years old, the first place that we ever lived in was in the closet of, some, distant relatives. And I remember the closet well. And the second place that we lived was this apartment on 946 North Mariposa, Los Angeles. And this photograph is in that apartment. It was a very small apartment, and you can even see in the photo, it's, the bed is on the floor, basically. It's just a mattress lying on the floor. But that day in particular, I remember so vividly because my dad brought, and you can see in the bottom corner of the photo, there's a Super Nintendo, which, I can't imagine at that time was just this huge purchase, an investment for my parents to make. My dad's 24, 25 years old then, maybe. Maybe 24 years old. And, I remember him setting it up and me being excited just because my dad was excited because I had no idea what video games were. I mean, this is, 1993, maybe 94. And I'd never seen something like that before. And I remember my dad setting it up and his excitement. I was excited just because he was excited. I had no idea what we were doing. And then, he set it up and it was Super Mario World. It's still my favorite game to this day. We pull it out every couple of years to just play it. I think you did it with me the last time I did 2 years ago. Yeah. And it's just my favorite game. And I just remember that day, that excitement, and it's just one of those core memories, that for me, I just love seeing that photo. It's my dad that's super young, my mom here as well. Just two young kids. I think about them at that age, 24 years old, 23 years old, my mom, and with children and trying to make a way in this world for themselves and for their kids. And it's a reminder of where I come from, who I am, and sort of our aspirations as well. And this other little small trinket was, it's just a shoe that apparently that I was wearing when we came to the States, to the United States from Guatemala. And it's just the right foot.
We don't know what happened.
Somehow that got saved. And I've just had it. My mom gave it to me when I was a kid, and I've just had this, and it's gone with me everywhere, right? From all the apartments that we lived in, the homes that we've lived in, and this is with me, and it's just a beautiful sort of reminder of, again, past history, who we are, and the future as well.
Right. Wow. Thanks for sharing those, Kenny.
Yeah.
I see those. I mean, they're at our house. They're in your room, and they hold a lot of significance, a lot of memories, and I think can speak to a lot of people as well. Maybe have similar backgrounds and the journeys that we've been on or that our parents took, the risks that they've taken to help us, do better, the next generation get better and do more. So thank you for sharing those. I love those memories. I always love seeing mom and dad super young. I never got to see that, right? You were the one that had got to see them really, really young. So I think that's really amazing experience that you had. So I appreciate you
By the way,
bringing those,
By the way, this mom obviously and dad are here, but I'm not leaving my sisters out, everyone, right? If you guys come into even my room at home or here in my office, my sister's photos and my family's photos are everywhere. And it's just family is super close to me and important to us and to me, and it's the bedrock of everything that we do. And so, yeah, but these just happen to be photos that, since I was a little kid, like you said, the experiences that I had with mom and dad in particular.
Cute. Yeah, very cute. Thanks, Kenny, for sharing that. And so, yeah, you've touched a little bit on it. Why don't we just start from the beginning, right? Beginning, of your life, your journey here. As you've mentioned as well, we're from Guatemala. Our family is from Guatemala, immigrants. But you were part of that as well. You were born in Guatemala, and you came to the States with my parents when, how old were you?
2 years old.
2 years old.
Yeah.
And they, like I said, they made the courageous decision to leave everything behind, everything they ever knew, all their family connections, contacts, security even, to come here to the States. And so, and you were part of that journey as well, and they did it for you, for our family. And what do you, even though you're a little kid, do you remember anything, or what do you remember about those moments, or just even coming to LA? Because that's where we ended up, thankfully. My parents chose LA.
Yeah.
That's where they decided to kind of plant us in the beginning. So what do you remember? What did you take away from that?
I don't remember anything about the crossing. All right, I don't remember any of that. My mom, and I love asking my parents about those stories. They've told me stories when I was a kid. I would ask a lot, and I love all the stories that they have of that crossing and all the obstacles that they had faced and had to overcome just to make it. I mean, it sounds like a bit of a nightmare mixed with just miracle after miracle, right? Because that's what it took to get here, divine providence, and but I don't remember any of that. What I do remember is I mentioned the closet. That's literally my first sort of like memory, living memory.
What about the closet?
Yeah, I mean, it was when we came to the United States, the first place that we lived in was the closet of a relative. They had a lot of people, Latinos. There's a lot of people in that apartment already, right? Latinos, we have family, very close. It's a great thing. But, there was a lot of people in that apartment, and the only space available, and they made space for us, which is great already. But the only space available was the closet, right? So I remember my mom, my dad, and I would sleep in between them. And the memory that I have is, the clothes hanging overhead. And it's not like it was a big, like, walk-in closet or anything like that, right? It was just a closet, and we were just kind of squished in there. And I do remember, like, hands or people, like, opening the door and grabbing clothes and stuff, and us, like, just sleeping there. That's sort of like my first memory that I have. And so at that time I would have been 2 years old. So he came around mid 1991. I was born in February, so about like 2 and 5 months or something like that.
Yeah. That's special, or like a special memory. But it also, I think, shows, like I said, maybe just our parents I think they also hustled as well in that time, as, they
100%.
lived in a closet. And then, I wasn't there, I wasn't born yet, but I know, from the closet, probably to a small little apartment in LA, and you were part of that. You were there as well. And just maybe it starts the initial struggles of getting into this country and trying to make it. But then, the hard work and, like, what is it? Why are we here? What's our purpose for being here? And I think you got to see a lot of that too, just like the drive, that our parents had.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mentioned this, and we'll have many stories that we'll talk about here. And I think in isolation, one can tell those stories and they sound maybe not the most pleasant. But for me, and, I talk about my parents a lot. I talk about my family a lot. I think it's my way of honoring the sacrifice and the hard work that my parents put in and gave for me, for their children, my siblings, you, Brandon, Chelsea. So I do that a lot in part to honor them, but I really am grateful for it because, as I said, in isolation, these stories may not sound the most pleasant, but when I think of the closet, and I mentioned this, right, it's my first memory, I don't think of it as like this bad thing, right, or like this horrible situation. I remember the love and the care and protection, nonetheless, that I felt in that time, right, and throughout all those circumstances. And I think I'm fortunate, and I tend to be someone that looks at life with sort of rose-colored glasses, right? And you try to look at the best in everything, in any situation, even if it seems to be a disadvantage or a difficult challenge or whatever we might be facing. But and and I know I've been fortunate despite, the status growing up, despite many challenges. I feel like I have been very fortunate. And the most fortunate thing that, the biggest gift I think that God gave me was my parents, my family, and the care and the love that they provided, right? And I think, and I know many people have had different upbringings, and some of them have had very similar upbringings, so that's great, and we share that. Some people have had different upbringing, right? But I think it's in telling these stories, Ian, about my folks, and I think about what I want to be able to do for my children as well, right? For my family, and I think those are the things that we, despite different backgrounds, we think of how we can make the next generation, how we can make it better for the next generation as well.
Yeah, that's great, Kenny. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And then, yeah, I just love your, just kind of that mentality, that perspective of seeing, even in the negatives, there's still a positive we can find. And it takes intentionality to try to find that positive. And I think that helps us in all aspects, in all challenges, whatever we're going through in life, that can help us get through those difficult moments.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. So I love that. And thank you for sharing that. And what about, so like I said, started off living in a closet. Let's go forward. I know then all of us are born, and then my parents, they work hard and we're able to make it, get a house out in the suburbs. So let's go forward a few years.
Okay.
We're out in the suburbs now, out in Fontana. That's where we first lived in.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're immigrant family trying to make it here in America.
Yeah.
But I want to share, maybe we could share the story of kind of the turning point, a point in your life. Yeah. I feel, and I think you've shared it, is a turning point, maybe around middle school, where there were some things going on in your life. Yeah. I think life could have gone very differently for you as well, had, changes not been made in at that time. So I think it was a pivotal moment in your life. Despite, you were like a preteen. But can you share with us what that is, what that moment was, and, the growth, the challenges and the growth you had in that time of your life? Yeah.
So Sharon, what you're referring to, and for everyone, we'll get into it here, but is that in middle school, right in 7th grade, I started acting up a bit, right? And that led to certain actions from my parents that helped fix that sort of road that I was heading down. But to preface that, I think it's important to note that, growing up, my mom and dad emphasized education for us, right? And they talked to us about how important education was. And for them, that was going to be the outlet and the way for us to be able to improve our lives. So my mom was always on us about grades, about studying, about all of that, right? Really briefly, she had rules like, if we wanted to play video games, we had to read books, right? So
read for an hour, and then we could play 30 minutes.
Exactly. So like you could only play half of the time that you read. So I wanted to play, my Super Nintendo, right? And I wanted to, on a Saturday morning, I wanted to spend 2 hours playing it. So I had to read 4 hours to play 2 hours. And I would do that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to play video games. My mom and dad, geniuses that they were, created in us a love for reading, because we ended up reading so much that for me, like nowadays, I don't play video games at all. People love playing it. In part, I guess it didn't end up playing it enough. I'm not good enough at it or whatever. But like, we just loved reading, right? And that's what started happening. So school was really important. Mom was always on us. So funny because she didn't, know English.
Yeah.
And yet she was always checking our homework, math, English, history. And she's the reason that we had great grades, because she would be honest. Like if we had something incorrect or wrong, she would make us do it all over and fix it. And we couldn't do anything until we got our homework done and studied. During that time, it might not have been like the most fun, but it's not like she was like this horrible person. No, she was just really honest. Yeah. And so we moved to the suburbs, you mentioned, when I was in 5th grade. So I was about 11 years old. And we moved out to Fontana from Los Angeles, and all a consequence of my dad and mom just, teaming up. My dad was going out to work. Mom was taking care of the kids at home and pushing and driving home education. Dad was grinding from picking up work at Home Depot to eventually running jobs, right? And doing additions and homes. And That was amazing.
Yeah.
We move out to the suburbs. That's another story for another time, just that whole journey for my folks, which is amazing in and of itself that they were able to do that at the time. And now I am in 7th grade, and there are some, I start hanging around perhaps with the wrong crowd. It's the best way to put it. It just so happened that sort of in that grade, they put perhaps the kids that were most active during classes, let's just put it that way, all together. And I gravitated towards this group of students, and I started acting up. We had a teacher who ended up being hurt and needed surgery, and so she was out, and we had a long-term sub, and that kind of created chaos for the whole class because everybody just started doing, kind of everything that they wanted to. Yeah, we had long-term subs quit on us just because how bad we were behaving, and I was contributing to that. It's not who I had been, the previous, 6th grade, 7 grades. I just, started gravitating towards that. And it was funny because I was still getting good grades, but I was getting sent to detention all the time. So it was this funny thing because my teachers were like, this is not who you are. Stop behaving this way. Yeah. Stop doing these things. And whether it was fights, whether it was whatever. And got so bad that I got pulled into the principal's office, and I was told that, hey, one more detention, you're going to be expelled. And maybe in that moment it sort of hit me hard, like, uh-oh. I don't want that. And you can imagine it was just also chaos at home because they would call home, and mom, when I would come home, my parents would be upset. We had some very nice sessions of getting whooped, right? But I just kind of kept at it. What my dad and mom did heading into that summer was brilliant, right? My dad essentially said, okay, you're going to come work with me. He was working construction. You're going to come work with me the entire summer. It was a pivotal moment in my life because I think it taught me exactly what hard work is.
Yeah. What'd you do, or how was working in construction? How was it?
Right. So my dad would wake me up at 4 a.m. because that's when he would leave. We were living in Fontana in the Inland Empire, and he was nonetheless working in Los Angeles and Thousand Oaks area, Calabasas. For folks that know, that's really far. That's, an hour and a half, no traffic. So we would wake up at 4 a.m. to try to avoid traffic, and that's when we would leave. And we would work all day, and we wouldn't leave until late at night, and we'd be getting home until at around like 11 o'clock at night. And we were doing that day after day after day. I happened to be this height when I was in 7th grade. It's funny because I thought I was going to be
like this the whole time.
I thought I was going to be like 6'3". I was so excited. I was always like one of the tallest in the class, and I was like, yeah. And then like my body remembered that it was Latino, right? It just stopped growing. But I was this height in 7th grade, so with a hat on, I looked like an adult, right? And so like my dad just took me there, and I was working. Statute of limitations on child labor like gone, right? But he was doing it for a reason, right? And 2 things happened that summer. One, my dad and I became best friends because we spent the entire time together. During that entire drive, he would be talking to me and trying to teach me about being responsible and what I want out of life and my future, and talking to me about God and values, and he was putting into me, I think, who he wanted me to be and for me to learn these things. And then we would work. And, in the middle of summer, boy, we were doing framing, the sun is out, it's hot. It taught me what hard work really is, right? Yeah. When you're super thirsty and there's no water around, it's only hose water, and that hose water, everybody knows, just makes you thirstier. And my dad wanted me to see what hard work was. And what he wanted me to do is make the choice to study. And because for him, it was, hey, this is what your life is going to be if you don't study hard, if you don't pay attention to school, if you don't get your act together. There's nothing wrong with doing construction work. I love it. It's what my dad did. Yeah. I certainly didn't go through that experience, even though it was tough, even though it was hard. I loved it. To this day, I smell like a construction site, because I would continue to work with my dad over the summers after that and all that. But I smell a construction site, it just feels like childhood and home. I love it. So it was not a horrible experience, but I certainly realized that that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so that next year, 8th grade, certainly saw a turn from what I was and where I was heading down in 7th grade to all of a sudden going, you know what, hey, I need to get my act together, stop messing around, start studying. And I had wonderful teachers that helped me in that transition as well, because, every now and then you kind of do something, but they certainly helped. And, it was an amazing summer, a pivotal summer, a transitional summer in my life that shaped the rest of my life. So became best friends with my dad, learned what actually hard work was and what I wanted out of life as well. And it helps nowadays too, because when I'm having late nights, particularly now as well, but when I was starting off even as a young attorney, and you're just having these crazy nights, which we still have, I don't see that as like this horrible thing. We work late nights, we come early, we work late nights. I mean, it is what it is, but I don't see that as hard work, because for me, I think back to that summer and all the work that continued the years thereafter and go, that's hard work, right? I am in an office with air conditioning all around me. We have a fridge and we have a kitchen with food. We have everything here in the office. I have everything and anything I want. It's super comfortable. Air conditioning. Right now it's like 100 and 5 degrees outside. Beautiful in here right now. That's hard work. This is a different type of work. Sure, it's hard as well, difficult, but it's not that, right? And I can do this. So it was an amazing summer, and I thank my dad. What a brilliant thing to do, because he could have told me, and it would never have really made inroads in my life, or in my mind rather. By making me go experience that, it was like I made the choice. Like, I don't want that. Thanks, Pops. I love you, and we've been best friends since. But I'm not gonna do that. Right. Yeah. And he didn't want me to do that either. I mean, that's the point. That's the reason he took me to go to experience that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a crazy story, Ken. And I love that. I know as a family, sometimes, we like to look back at that story as well. Yeah. We make jokes about it, but still in that, like you said, if it was a turning point in your life. Yeah. I think your life could have been very different had you kind of kept doing what you were doing in middle school. Mm-hmm. But what I love, and I think you see, you look back on it very fondly. Mm-hmm. I feel maybe sometimes there's people maybe who go through experiences like that, or something, to that effect. It was uncomfortable. It's something they didn't want to do. Maybe you look back on that stuff bitterly. Mm-hmm. But you tend to see, like, you see things glass half full. You have that attitude, that perspective on things, and I think that's so important for people to have. Even in the midst of challenges or things that are uncomfortable. How is it that you maintain that? I don't know, it takes humility. I mean, even at a young age to see it that way. Yeah. How does that, having that perspective help you in your life?
Yeah. So the question being, how do I look at it that way, and then how does it help in life? Mm-hmm. You're causing me to be a bit introspective right now, so I'm gonna try to analyze myself a bit. I feel like that's just kind of what I've done my entire life, but that would be just an easy answer. Again, I think a lot of it is my parents, right, and our faith. Certainly, your belief in, for us, God, and my faith that despite whatever our circumstances may be, there is something better on the horizon, right, and it's so important for me to some degree. If I'm being just sort of facetious here or just practical, I didn't have another choice. Yeah. Right. I was undocumented. I knew that from when I was a kid because my parents told me. And I knew that opportunities were going to be limited because of that. And I still had a dream. I still had things that I wanted to do. And so it was about, how do I get there, rather than conceding. Mm-hmm. And so in part, I think because of that, then it became whatever's going on around me. look for the best out of that situation. And I say this all the time. I say this, and I love to tell this to college students, it's just young people. It's just like turn your biggest disadvantage into your biggest advantage, and there's an angle to all of that. And for me, I think growing up, to some degree, you were mentioning parents as well, and people go through different experiences, whether it's with parents or family or other situations and circumstances. Is that if we're talking about parents, giving them grace as well, right? They don't know what they're doing either.
They're figuring it
They're
out.
figuring it out. Yeah, they're figuring it out. In my case, my dad is 20 years older than me. My mom 19, and so somehow I was able to understand when I was young as well that they're figuring it out and they're doing their best. They're not going to make the best choice and best decision in the moment. And if I were to think about and sort of stick on that point and be mad about that, it'd be a bit hypocritical because I'm figuring stuff out now as well. And when children come, I'm be figuring things out as well. Nobody knows all the answers, and I would like some grace as well as we're figuring that stuff out. So a lot of it is that, and sometimes people do things, taking aside parents, for example, or might be maybe that, but sometimes people do things maybe with an ill will, and certainly there have been horrible and traumatic things that have happened in life, right? And even then, for me, it's looking ahead, right? And how then can I help someone else, perhaps avoid that or save someone else from that? Not as a savior complex or anything, but really as a human and serving and helping other people. I had no choice, and that helped me. I just needed to look at the best out of every situation. And that has simply helped me because wherever I've been, I've looked for that. And, I tell stories now that, again, in isolation, those stories, the circumstance does not sound good, but I see that for me as that made me who I am, right? That created or developed traits in me that help me out in the future. And that's what I want for other people as well to see. Like, hey, whatever circumstance you're in right now, this can actually be good. Find the good in it, and you'll grow from it.
Yeah, I love that, Kenny.
Yeah.
I love that perspective you had. And it definitely has helped me in my life, many points in my life. And I know you've helped so many people as well, kind of make that mind shift. That's awesome. So thank you for sharing all of that. I want to get into I think this is also a beautiful part of your story is, being undocumented. I think that is, it hasn't defined who you are, but it is part of your story. Yeah. And how you've been able to overcome that, or, not let that, block you or prevent you from achieving your goals and dreams. So being undocumented, I think, and I want to ask, or when did you really feel,
Yeah.
I'll say this, I know we've known this growing up. I even remember when I was a little girl, my parents telling us like, hey, that you guys are undocumented. Brandon, myself, and Chelsea, we're all born here in America. But you three, being undocumented, being told that. And I had a fear when I was a little kid that, my parents or my brother, any day they could get deported. Yeah. But you actually, that was your quote unquote status here in the States. How did that impact you, or when did you actually really feel that in your life? Yeah.
I think growing up for the most part, I didn't feel it going up until like junior year of high school. Okay. Maybe sophomore year, junior year of high school. Okay. Before that, you just kind of experience life as everybody else, right? You're playing sports, you're doing a bunch of things. Maybe I wasn't allowed to travel because we used to play sports a lot, and we were on some pretty good teams, and maybe I couldn't travel places.
Out of state.
And
or out of the country.
You just couldn't, because parents couldn't. I couldn't. So, but that was a very small thing, I think, in large scheme of things. So for the most part, but I did know that I was undocumented. Parents had explained it to me, and I was fully aware of it. When I was in, sophomore, junior year of high school is when you begin feeling it, because that's when it's time to start thinking about college, right? And that's when, everybody's excited about college. People are getting their learner's permits, their driver's license. I couldn't get that, right? that's where it was like, oh, okay. So there's some things that I can't do. Applying to college, I couldn't get financial aid. I couldn't get loans.
Around what time was this? The year?
Let me see. I graduated high school in 2007. So, 5, 6, 7, 2005, 2006 until 2007, around that time. And, I think that's when you started realizing and where it became a little bit more evident to me that there were challenges and that we're going to have to find different ways to get to, in my case, I wanted to be an attorney. So how am I going to get there? How am I going to pay for all that? That's when those thoughts started coming in. And, we have stories about that. We can get into that. But I think that's when I started realizing around that age.
Yeah. And so how did you confront that challenge? And what did we do, or our family, or what did you do specifically?
Yeah.
You're not, because some people could see that, and could seem as a big obstacle in their life, and then maybe I shouldn't apply to college, or maybe college isn't for me, even though I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But you still did that nonetheless, despite your immigrant status. How did you get through that?
Yeah, and I tell people that it might not be being undocumented. Maybe it just might be a financial situation. Hey, you don't know how you're going to be able to pay for school. So I was in a very similar boat, right? And so I think this story can nonetheless apply to, a large group of people. For me, it's interesting because you mentioned you asked about when I started feeling this. And I had to start driving, for example, right? I needed to start being able to be mobile, and you didn't have a license, right? So that was a very different experience driving while not having a license, right? And whenever there was a cop, it's funny because to this day, now I do have DACA, I do have some protection now, right? That happened in 2012, but when I was in law school. But I remember driving and seeing a police car and, sort of tensing up the steering wheel. You're going like, oh, they're going to stop me. They're going to know. And then, they're going to, put me in jail. I'm going to be deported. Oh my goodness. And there was a fear, but going back again to my folks and just our faith and this idea that, look, living with that nonetheless, right? I feel like I've been able to handle a lot of like stress and fear because I learned that stuff growing up, just having to, and just getting used to that, not in a bad way that it's like weighing on me, but just like, hey, there's this thing, it's a reality. Now set it aside for a second. Don't let the worry overwhelm you because you're given that power. So, okay, it's a reality, set it aside. Now focus on how do you nonetheless get where you need to get to. And so for school then, I was very fortunate. This, again, will be a story for a different time, but my dad and mom as a unit, again, what they were able to do was ridiculous. Their story, again, for a different time, but really fast forward, my dad was able to build a construction company and built multiple custom homes in, Beverly Hills area, Thousand Oaks, all these beautiful homes to this day. They're still there. And, despite sort of what his situation was, he's just this amazing general contractor, and had done very well for himself. Had many houses, many properties. We were living in a very large house at that time as I was getting ready to go into college. But that's also right around the time where 2008 happens, right? And my dad is in construction. There's a lot of houses, money's in property, everything. And so the stuff goes south, right? And so the very first couple of years, it's a different many people, rather. The first few years of going into college, the first year, rather, I thought that I was fine because I was like, my dad's got money. He's going to be able to pay for. I went to UCLA, right?
Yeah, UCLA. But
it's a public school.
Yeah, UCLA, and I love that. But I just want people to know Kenny settled for UCLA. Just kidding. Yeah. No, I love that. Hey, despite you still applied, you were actually waitlisted at Harvard. I don't think a lot of people know that. And is that right? Yeah. And things happen. We believe that God works in best for us in great ways, and And it all worked out because you went to UCLA, which is still a great school.
I love UCLA, yeah.
And so, you want to keep going?
Yeah, I definitely needed to stay close to home, and that was a great thing in the long run. My thought initially with regards to money was, hey, Dad's going to be able to take care of it. You're oblivious to the finances and what's going on in the world and what was going on with everybody, right? And including my family at that time, around 08, where everything started going south. And I remember once in particular where, my dad had been telling me to apply for scholarships, like, hey, like that would help because, I have siblings, my Brandon, you, Chelsea, and you guys are still in school. He's trying to keep the house. He's trying to do a lot while work just wasn't there, right? And for me, I think I had gotten to this point where I was like, yeah, they're going to take care of that. I remember a call that I made to my dad one day where I was like, hey, like, I didn't get anything. I need you to pay for tuition. Now it's a public school. It certainly wasn't private, so it wasn't that amount of private school. But it was still, $3,000, something like that. I think it went up to $4,000 by the end of my time at UCLA, but which was a lot per quarter. Nonetheless, as things were getting difficult, and I remember hearing in my dad's voice, like, this one was going to be rough, right? And putting the money for that and education and making sure that I went through school and was able to do what I wanted to do and needed to do was very important for my parents. But I could hear it in his voice, like, hey, this one was rough, and I need you to start doing more. And I realized then that, I need to get money because we don't have any. And this is a public school. This is only undergrad. I'm still in my first year. What about law school? That's like $40,000 a year. My dad told me something around that time where he said, hey, you have to treat applying to scholarships as if it's a job. Because if you get money, it's basically a job. That's why you get a job, is to get money to pay for things. So if you're able to get money through scholarships, then great. Treat it like a job. Apply. And the thing that people never want to do is write those essays, right? Yeah. You're already doing all the schoolwork. Like, why do I want to do extra essays? And that's certainly the way that I initially approached them. When I realized I needed to do more, I started taking that a little bit more seriously. And I think I'm fast forwarding through a lot here. We can come back, but when it was time to go to law school, I applied to a lot of law schools. I didn't even know about Loyola. I just applied because they sent me, something in the mail. Nice. So I just applied. They gave me a waiver, so I was like, oh sure, I'll apply there. I don't even know where this place is. I remember getting at that time MapQuest. Eventually, when I went to do the deposit, because I was like, I don't know where Loyola Law School is. And as it turned out, it was the best thing ever for me, for our family, as it turned out as well. But I applied and I got a response from them that, I got a scholarship, a merit scholarship that covered 2 out of the 3 years. That already was amazing. Yeah. But that money was going to be, it's prorated out. So every year I still needed to come up with about $16,000 to $20,000 on my own. You could have told me it was $1,000. I just didn't have that money anyways. And so I had to continue applying for scholarships throughout the time in law school to be able to make it, semester over semester. I'm very happy to say that by the time I graduated law school, now remember, I'm undocumented, right, at this time. I couldn't get financial aid. I couldn't get federal loans. The government wasn't going to help me just because of rules and laws. They weren't going to do it. So I needed to find these private scholarships. And they were amazing people that helped send information about scholarships. The people at Loyola, there's these great people that are just there. John Hoy, Matthew Riojas, Rocio Cabrera, Professor Gary Craig. There's just so many wonderful people that just helped me that I just love so much for that. And by the time I graduated law school, I graduated with $0 in debt. I owed nothing.
It's still crazy to this day. And I love that, you've shared this story with other students. It wasn't not even to brag, but it's to share how possible it is.
Absolutely.
Despite your circumstance, despite, your status, or despite, the lack of resources, one could say, if you have that drive, you have that that attitude, I'm going to figure it out, that you can do it. And I love when you share this story. Yeah. We even had points where people applaud you for this.
Groups, yeah,
I'm
and
like,
large.
I'm just
yeah,
used
rooms.
to I know it's a great story. But yes, it is truly amazing to see where you came from, or the lack of. You still found what it is. The resources you needed, the financial, the money to scholarships to cover all of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's, a beautiful, amazing story, and I think a great thing for people to hear and see. Yeah, that regardless of your circumstances, you could still find something, something powerful in it, you know, and come out of that challenge or that circumstance that you're in.
Yeah, and to your point, Sharon, I don't tell that story. We're often asked to share it. I don't tell that as a pat on my back. Sometimes I honestly feel like I'm talking about someone else, some story, something that happened in the past, right? And it's more so people can take some inspiration out of it, and whatever your circumstance is, you can do it. If you have a dream and, you want to go to school for it, I know it looks difficult. I know it looks like there's a huge mountain in front of you. How are you ever going to scale it? But it is possible. It takes a little bit of risk, right? It takes a lot of bit of courage. But you are capable, because there's nothing I say this, but there's nothing, special or different about me. You can do it too, right? And other people can do it. It's just a little bit of belief, a little bit of faith, right? And there are people also along the way that are gonna help point the path and help you. And that's why it's so important for me, in my case as well, on this end. And I'm still very much on my journey still, but having passed certain things is looking back and helping folks, right, who are in those earlier stages, and encouraging them and helping, whether that is, emotionally with a word of encouragement. We also do some scholarships with that way as well, and many different ways to be able to help folks. Someone helped me. It's important to pass that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love that too. You said that it's not a journey, or I feel like you said this is your journey, but there's so many people who have helped you along the way as well. And so if you need help, if you don't know the answer, go look for it. Go look for somebody. Somebody to talk to. Yeah. We realize, and as I've grown up as well, and I think we've both seen this, that there are so many people who want to help. So people who want to guide you as well. This is not a journey. Life isn't a journey meant to be taken alone. And so it's in these, moments or challenges in our life where we can, we're going through it, but we can also reach out and find somebody. And a lot of times, not every single time, but a lot of times people are willing to help you. And so I love hearing that too.
And to find joy wherever you're at, whatever moment you are at in life, find joy.
Yeah, I love that, Ken. And so thank you for sharing that. UCLA, it's a lot of I'm going to say miracles, a lot of great things that are happening along your way. But even and I'm thinking about still your time at Loyola. I know it was still in the moment. You mentioned earlier that DACA didn't pass until 2012. And so that's when you were in law school, right? And so I think you even mentioned this, that there came a point in your life is that why am I, at that, right, you need to, have status, be a citizen to be able to get a job, right? What were you thinking at the time in law school? Like, you were doing this, but was it going to be worth it? Like if things didn't pan out, what advice would you give to people as well? We're living in a time right now, maybe DACA, things are up and down with that as well. And I feel like we're coming back to again, a lot of people maybe feel uneasy, right? People who are undocumented. So what advice do you have, or, in terms, what advice do you have? Or how did you overcome as well in that moment in your life?
Right. That's a great question. I feel like there's a lot that I want to say to that. So maybe I'll start here. I think by the time I was in law school, mentally and emotionally, I think I was in a better place at that point. So I think what you're asking starts when I was at UCLA. Right. All right. And so I'll tie that into Loyola, my time in law school. When I was at UCLA, what was going on is that, again, money was tight. And in order to get to UCLA, we were living in Fontana, California. To get to UCLA, which is in Westwood, California, it's a very long way. I didn't have a car. I couldn't afford whole gas and doing all that. So I had to go through public transportation. So I would drive from home to the train station in Rancho Cucamonga from Rancho Cucamonga train station, I would jump onto the Metrolink, go from there to the Union Station in Los Angeles, jump off of that, go underground into the subway, get on the Purple Line, take the subway, and go to Wilshire and Western, get off of there, jump onto the bus, the bus to Wilshire and Westwood, get off of the bus, and then it was like another 15-minute walk to school, walking north. All in all, it would take me 3 hours to get to UCLA, and then 3 hours to come back home.
I can't complain.
Yeah.
I just drove with Brandon to Loyola back and forth.
Got that together. That's right.
Yeah, it was a journey for you.
So at some point, right, I do remember feeling this question of, is it even worth it? Because DACA wasn't even a thought really then when I was at UCLA. And for me, it was like, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to have a degree, in political science, minor in philosophy. Like, then what? I'm just going to go back to working with my dad. Oh, I'm going to go to law school. Then I have a JD, and now I'm going to be back working construction. Right. Is this even worth it? To your point, right? Your question. What eventually coalesced in my mind was this idea that all I can do is prepare and have faith that things will work out. That sometimes is an unsatisfactory answer or perspective, it can seem, because you're kind of saying, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. And that's kind of the point. There's nothing I can do about that, about my status. There was nothing I can do about a work permit. There was nothing I can do. I mean, listen, many, many years before then, my dad had an opportunity, my family had an opportunity to get their papers and everything. And I remember them asking my dad, like, hey, all you have to do is say that you guys were fleeing Guatemala because of, political unrest, and you guys were political refugees, and then you're going to be able to get your papers and be citizens, et cetera. And like, that's it. And like, my dad, the man of integrity that he is, was like, yeah, it's not the reason we left. Like, I can't say that. So, I can't. And so we didn't, right? So it was like, but all we had to do was say this. But no, I think going back to what I was talking about is all I can do is prepare and try to do it in the best way that we can, right? That represents who we are and who I am and what we stand for. And so, all I could do was prepare. And so I went through UCLA, went through law school. By the time again in law school, it was just like, okay, I just have to get my JD. Things will work out by then. And if they're not worked out by then we will figure it out. If I have to go back to work some construction, then goodness, I will do that, and we will help my dad build that company, and we're gonna do great. No matter what road we take, we're gonna make it work. Mm-hmm. No matter where life takes us, we're gonna make it work. And fortunately, as my second year of law school was wrapping up, literally right before the summer is when I was able to get my work permit. And, a buddy of mine was working at a spot and put in a good word for me. Marcellus Morris, my guy. And I was able to start working at a firm. And that's how I started working in law.
Yeah.
But again, so for what's happening right now during our time, this DACA is becoming a political sort of point again. It is, and it's different points, different parts of it, parts of it are being held up in court and in the political discourse. What I would say is, and I've had students ask me this, students who have DACA, and also there are now students who are undocumented again, because since DACA stopped a few years ago, like they weren't allowed to process new applications, there are now students in law school, once again, who are in my same situation, who are undocumented, just like me when I started law school. And so what I've told them, and they've asked me, and what I say is, listen, same thing. All you can do right now is prepare. Right. Have faith that it's going to work out. Something is going to happen. But in the meantime, prepare. And when preparation meets opportunity, then you'll be in the best position to take it. And, because of my situation, because I knew that I couldn't get jobs, let's say that first year of law school, heading into law school, first year of law school, that summer, that summer after your first year of law school is so pivotal because people get jobs and that's what helps them get set up for a job once they graduate. Right. I wasn't a part of that and I couldn't. I worked in construction with my dad that summer. Like that's what I did that summer. All right. But since I knew that I wasn't going to get those opportunities, again, looking for the best in any situation, I looked around. This is why I am a huge fan. I love Loyola Law School. They're amazing. They were amazing to me, to my family. Brandon and you, Sharon, went there as well. So we're very much a Loyola Law School family. And but I looked around at Loyola and said, okay, what opportunities does Loyola provide where I can get the experience that my peers are getting in jobs, but that I can do it as a part of my curriculum, right? Mm-hmm. And Loyola is so great at this. Loyola teaches students how to be lawyers, right? Not just theory, not just reading, not just cases. We do all that, but they put you in positions to learn how to be a lawyer. I think better than most law schools do. And so there were programs like Semester in Practice that put me into an actual firm so that I could shadow attorneys as they went to court, did depositions, or with clients. It's actually the firm where I ended up working at after. So that was essentially my summer after the first year of law school that everybody else does. I was able to do it through school, basically. Yeah. Right. I was on the trial team, the Byrne trial team with Professor Susan Poles that taught me about being a trial attorney because that's what I wanted to be. And I had never done mock trial. I knew nothing about trial or rules or anything. And I learned many things there. Right. The civil litigation course with Professor Gary Craig that taught me how to be a litigator because that's what I wanted to do. I learned through looking for the opportunities that are available in law school because I knew I wasn't going to be able to work in other places. Yeah. I think that's a very long way of answering your question, but condensing it all to say that all we can do is prepare in the meantime, right? And if we let worry about things that we have no control over govern the way I behave right now, that leads to paralysis. Yeah, I feel, and I've felt that as well in life. And maybe you feel less of an urge to do something now because you're like, it's not even gonna be worth it. Right. All we can do right now is prepare, right? Prepare the horse for battle. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Thank you, Kenny. Or when one door closes, I think another opens. But we have to be the ones to look for that. We have to turn around. Oh, there's a door, but I have to be on the lookout for it. It's just not going to be given to me. Yeah. And I think that's how you take a lot of life as well. It's looking for those opportunities, being intentional, and seeing the best as well. Having that positive mental attitude. And I think that's something that, I love about you and, that helps me out a lot in life as well. Yeah. And having faith and trust that, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to do what's in my control. Yeah. And, what I can't control, it's okay. Just let it go. Yeah. It'll work out one way or another, the way it's meant to work out. And I love that you were able to share these stories and you got, like you said, the experience that you needed. You went to a great law firm, or you clerked and then became an attorney at, amazing premier law firm. So why don't we talk about briefly that and just opening up your practice, opening up your office.
Can I say one more thing? Just something that you were alluding to there that I love is that it's not that things always turn out the way that you expected. Yeah. Right. And so we're talking here about, it seems like some highlights, right? And things that were great. And we're like, well, life is always great. To some degree, we look at it that way, even when things have gone south or changed. Yeah. We just have to. Yeah. Right.
But we're not delusional.
It's not about being delusional. You're absolutely right. Quick little story here. When I was in college and law school, we moved from houses to houses because we kept on losing the house that we were at, right? And eventually we lost our home. The last one that had been able to stay at for a few years, and we were literally homeless.
By definition.
By definition, right? Yes. We literally moved into a hotel
Six of us.
The six of us, and in a little room, and that's where we were living. And I was already, when that happened, I had already left law school, and I was working as an attorney. By the way, it's not like it started off like glamorous or anything. I was working at the law firm that I wanted to, that when you were talking about huge premier law firm, it's where I wanted to be. It was going to give me the experience that I wanted. But it was also a really big pay cut to work there because they knew people wanted to work there. So I was not making a lot of money by any means, right? But I remember, and I was working really late hours but I was loving it because that's what I wanted to do. But I remember coming home to the hotel, and I had to get gas, and I was at the gas station across from where the hotel is at. And I remember pumping gas, and it's just one of those vivid memories that I have. I was pumping gas, and I remember like looking up across at the hotel that's on the other side of the street, and just starting to laugh. And I was like, and the thought that crossed my mind was, well, it could only go up from here.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, well, cool. I guess the positive thing is that the next step is only up. Right?
Yeah.
And so, again, it's not that things are always perfect. And we have many of those stories, right? It's just, again, how are you looking at things? And then what can we do moving forward? With school, for example, even law school, like I wanted to be a prosecutor. I wanted to be a DA. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to be. I started law school, and I realized that, being undocumented, I'm not going to be able to do that at all. I can't work for the government. So, that's a bummer. But through looking at, okay, I still want to be a trial attorney. I want to help folks out. How do I do that? Oh, what is this being a plaintiff's lawyer? Yeah. And that's what I do now. Right. Yeah. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And by the way, it's, well.
Go for it.
Well, what I was going to say is because he doesn't like to say this, right? But my brother is a prosecutor, right? Yeah. And he, and so he's doing what I wanted to do. And it's not like I look at that like, oh, it's no, like now you see it, I'm like, wow, that's amazing, man. That how life works.
Yeah,
beautiful. And it's exciting. So life doesn't always turn out the way that you thought of it. But I certainly look back in life and go, even all those things that were unexpected, that seemed like they were bad things, were pivotal in informing who I was then, who I became, and who I am now, and also who I will be. Yeah. And it's always evolving. I'm always improving. I'm not a finished product, and I need to.
Beautiful, Kenny.
Yeah.
I love that. And so why don't we get I know we're kind of nearing the end of our time here. But you mentioned it, right? Working at this premier law firm. But I know, since then, you've always wanted to, I don't know when it started, but when you started working there, you worked there with the intention of wanting to start your own practice. Mm-hmm. And so what kind of advice do you have for people, or maybe they want to do something like that too? Maybe there's a bigger goal, there's a dream, but there's some other steps that are required, that we need to take before getting to that big next step we want to get to. And so how did you go about that in terms of working at this great law firm and then taking that jump to start your own firm? And what advice do you have?
Yeah, I certainly think there are many ways to arrive at that.
Mm-hmm. There's no one way.
There's no one way, and people have been successful in many different ways. I have friends who, leaving law school, opened up their own practice and are crushing it. For me, what I wanted to do was go to a place where I can learn as much as possible. You can never learn everything, but get as much experience as possible. And yes, it was my intention from the very beginning that I was going to open up my practice in like 5 to 7 years out of law school. That was the goal. And so I went to work at the firm where I was working with that full intention. And so that meant that I volunteered for as much as I could, and I worked those late hours. I basically took that same approach from middle school. When I was in 7th grade, my dad took me to go work with him that entire summer. And I said, hey, this is a much more comfortable situation. Working in this beautiful office, beautiful location.
Air conditioned.
Yeah, all of that, right? And, it's leaving super early in the morning, saying 4 o'clock, coming back late at night, and doing that day after day after day after day for years. And I got a chance to do so many cool things, right? Trial, so many depositions, so many different phases of litigation, and got to cut my teeth and learn from these amazing trial lawyers, amazing litigators, and strategies. And eventually I even got a chance to run one of the offices out here in San Bernardino. And then when that firm rather, transitioned or closed, I was able to open up my own practice. So I got all that experience and was able to do it. And that was my goal, was get as much experience as possible so that I can open up my own practice. And look, even now we're learning, right? Because I learned a lot about the practice of law, not all of it, and we're always learning. It's called the practice of law because you learn constantly. But what I certainly didn't know was anything really about the business of law. Right. And so to your question, what I would tell people who are interested in opening up their own practice one day is also be mindful and learn about what the business of law is, right? Just so you can be ahead of the game, because many people aren't even thinking about that stuff. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody who wants to reach out. I'd love to share our experiences, what's working, what didn't work, and learning that as well. And for me, I feel fortunate. Again, I just look at life that way. But for me, I feel super fortunate to be in the situation that we're at right now. I get to do this with you, Sharon, who I trust implicitly with my whole heart. My dad is here with us as well, who I trust implicitly with my whole heart. I'm looking over because he's behind the camera over there. My mom's here with us as well. And we're doing it together, and it's exactly what we've always wanted to do, something together as a family. Yeah. We never knew it was going to be as lawyers, as a law firm rather, because you guys weren't going to be lawyers at first. It wasn't your thought,
no,
right? It
wasn't until seeing you and your love for helping people.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
That seems awesome.
Yeah.
So.
And so, that's what I would say, I'm super fortunate. I feel very fortunate, and to all of us to be learning. We love serving people, and then we're learning about the business of law at the same time. And that's fun. We're building a business. Something that we want to do is build a lasting and enduring business, right? And you look, whether you're looking at the tech, whether you're looking at the marketing, whether you're looking at the actual practice, whether you're looking at efficiency, what is it that you're looking at? Finances. It's fun. It's interesting. It's different. And that's what I would encourage people is, look, learn as much as you can. And the route that I took was going to a firm and learning about the practice of law. But be mindful as well about what is the business of law, right? If you want to be a defense attorney and you want to open up your own defense firm, for example, civil defense, then ask questions about the billing practices, right? And ask questions about how they get clients, about retainers, et cetera, and learn about that. If you want to be a plaintiff's attorney, it's a different method, it's a different sort of like world, but learn that as well. We are in a super exciting time right now where technology has converged into and come into the legal space, and it's helping so many attorneys who also want to go out on their own. And it's possible now, whereas like 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it really wasn't, not to the extent it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, so many resources out there that people you can reach out to. Yeah. I mean, we're still reaching out to people and learning from so many people, resources. He said it's a beautiful time, and I think the doors are there. Doors wide open for those who want to take that leap and that jump. Yeah. And thank you, Ken. I will say that I'm grateful. Like I said, you're an amazing leader. I think you're a visionary person as well. And that I'm grateful to be on this journey with you. I don't think I would have been working at another firm. I don't know. Yeah, but I get the opportunity to work alongside like an amazing leader, amazing person, brother, and that you're leading the way. And I think inspiring so many other people along the way as well by what you're doing. And so thank you for that. And you're a man who is resilient, who is fearless, who will do the work. You're not afraid to get down and get your hands dirty. You'll put in the work. And I've seen just kind of me knowing you for most of your life. You've known me for all my life, but just seeing that the growth that you've had, the trajectory of your life, and who it's made you today. And so it's very inspiring for me. And I thank you. I thank you for that. And just, the wisdom, everything you've shared today. I think a lot of people can take so much away from this, and I think really shift, I keep saying mind shift, but I think that is a big thing for all of us. And so in closing, Ken, we're doing this. I'm trying to think of the question. Working on the business. I don't know. What's your dream? I don't know. What's your vision for the business or a family business, we could say, even call it.
Yeah.
What do you have in mind?
You mentioned earlier, we want is a lasting and enduring business. And one that serves people. That's at the heart of what we do. And we serve people. Our entire life, we've been in, one big part of our entire life has been God and church. And throughout our entire life, we've been in service there, right? And that's serving people. And that's that same sort of spirit, I think, and mentality we take here as well. This is what we do. We serve people. We help people who are in need. People who have been in an accident, people who have lost a loved one, people who have been hurt, who have been wronged, and we're serving them. That's what we do. We're not making money off of it. We're serving people. Exactly. And that is very key. And we see that as what our firm does in our community, locally and at large, is that we serve people and we help people heal. And help them get access to justice. Yeah. And related to that, from a business perspective, it's how do we help as many people as possible? And in order to do that in the best way possible, you have to have an infrastructure that can not only help volume as many people as possible, but give them the best legal representation as well. And so a couple of things that we say all the time here is, right, we want to be efficient, we want to be effective, and we want to have excellence. That's what we want. That's a service that we want to provide. That's what we want to do for people and also within our practice, within our business. So I want us to continue to do that and to be a firm that is able to do that throughout the state of California. And at large, we'll see what happens after that, right? But that's what we want here. That's what we want to do, and the opportunities for us to continue growing, for you as well as an attorney, as a businesswoman, for my dad as well, here, my mom, everybody else who wants to be and comes to be a part of our family here and follow that. We want to create opportunities for people to have and have their lives and grow and be able to provide for their children. Right, and for generations, not just for a moment. Right, we want a family as we are, and just continue that same heart. And in the future, this is a little bit more into the future. We've always wanted to get into construction and development. That's just a heart. That's just something that my dad had always, and something that we love property, we love business, that as well, and that's a long-term sort of goal. And even that, it would be providing homes for folks, right? Mm-hmm. But we're very excited. I'm thrilled about what we're doing here and learning how to put this business together while at the same time giving the best legal representation to people possible. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited, and we're on this journey together. We share obviously a lot on social media. It's funny because growing up we're very private folks, and we're sharing a lot. But I think it's hopefully encouraging to people, exactly. And that people can relate as well and be on this journey with us. We are very much still learning, and hope to encourage and inspire folks on their journey.
Thank you, Ken. I love the vision. Love that entrepreneurial spirit you have. I love that you love to serve other people. Mm-hmm. I think that's the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. We get to do this. This is our way to serve our community, serve mm-hmm. people. And we hope I think you're one of the most inspiring people that I know. So thank mm-hmm. you for leading the way. And I agree. This is, I love everything that we've been through as a family, individually. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of the most exciting thing that we're doing. This is like the most exciting time of my life. And I'm grateful that I could be part of it. That we can have our parents a part of it as well. Our siblings, Brandon and Chelsea are part of it, all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And very grateful for all the people who have been there helping and supporting us along the way. And so thank you, Kenny.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it there.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing your story. I said, shared a good amount, I think. And I think we can take so much away from this. And so we appreciate your time. We appreciate who you are, love you, and excited for what we have ahead. And yeah, just thank you to everybody. Thank you to everyone who's listened, who came on, who listens to us at every single episode. We appreciate you just taking the time out of your day and spending it with us. And so we wish you all the very best. Again, we thank everyone for who subscribes, who leaves a review, who rates this episode, who comments. All of that helps to get this message, to get this podcast to so many people who, we hope are inspired and find hope in these stories and these amazing people that we interview. And we can hear from their journeys and be inspired by that. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and exciting times. We're excited for you as well. And we wish you the best. And thank you. And we'll see you on the next episode of Art of Purpose. And take care.
See you, everyone.